Today I am bringing you a list of the top 10 fantasy series that I would like to prioritise in 2025 and beyond. I am not going to promise to read all of these series this year because that is even more intimidating than this list already is. Usually when I make this video every year, I only talk about the series that I'm going to be starting. However, this year I've split this video into two. So the first half of this video is going to be series that I've already started that I would like to make progress with. And then the second half of the video is going to be series that are new to me. We're going to kick things off with the one series that I am rolling over from last year. This is the only series that I didn't get round to reading that I wanted to, and that is the Darker Shade of Magic trilogy. It's not even a trilogy anymore. The Darker Shade of Magic series by V. Schwab. So this is actually a reread for me. I read this first book back in 2021 and I know that I liked it and I wanted to continue it. I really liked the concept of this world where there are different Londons and there's like parallel worlds, and we're following a main character who can travel between these worlds. Generally, I really like V. Schwab's writing, and yeah, I need to prioritise this. I never got round to reading A Gathering of Shadows, which is the second book, and now there's a fourth book that came out either last year or the year before. I did try and listen to the audiobook for this first book because I read it physically the first time, and I thought maybe listening to the audiobook would be a good way to go to experience the story differently, but I hated the audiobook. So I know that I need to read this physically, it's just finding the time. Some series that I started last year that I would like to continue include The Lies of Loch Lamora by Scott Lynch. I read the first two books, which I'm gonna have to juggle some stuff around to be able to hold them up, but I read The Lies of Loch Lamora and Red Sea Under Red Skies last year. Really enjoyed these two. I think the first book was my favourite, but then I also liked the way that the story continued, and with the way that the second book ends, I feel like I need to pick up The Republic of Thieves pretty soon, otherwise I'm going to forget stuff. The Gentleman Bastard series, for anyone who doesn't know, follows Loch Lamora and a group of gentlemen bastards who are essentially con artists. I have heard that there's a short story collection set within this world that's coming out soon. I know that it's been a long time since the third book came out, but I have heard that potentially the series is going to be continued soon and we're going to get a new book. Don't quote me on that though, because I don't know for definite. Back in 2023, I read the first three books in the First Law universe by Joe Abercrombie, and I liked this series. I gave it 4 stars. I then read Best Served Cold, which is the first book in, is it called the Great Levelers trilogy? It's like a series of standalones set within the First Law universe. And again, I really liked Best Served Cold. However, I then picked up The Heroes and I wasn't the biggest fan. I don't know whether it was just my mood at the time, but I got about halfway through and realised I wasn't taking anything in. I wasn't really enjoying the story, but objectively I could see that it was well written. And I know that this book is actually my partner's favourite book within the First Law, or at least it's his favourite book out of the standalones, and yeah, I would like to give this another go. I want to get through the standalones because I've heard really good things about the Age of Madness trilogy, which is the final trilogy within the First Law universe, and I feel like I'm going to really like that based on what I've heard about it. I would also like to continue with the Tomes and Tea series by Rebecca Thorne. The first book is Can't Spell Treason Without Tea. The second book is A Pirate's Life for Tea, and then the third book comes out this year and it's called Tea You at the Wedding, which is just so cool. I love the titles of these books. I think they are so fun. This is a cozy fantasy with a hint of adventure, and we're following an established sapphic couple who decide to run away from their lives and responsibilities and set up a tea shop in this small town that edges on Dragon Country. And yeah, it was really fun. I kept meaning to pick up the second book towards the end of last year and just kept not getting round to it. So this is definitely one that I need to prioritise. Ooh, nearly knocked you over then. Apologies. Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas is a series that I would love to finish this year because I am filming a reading vlog for the series and I would like that reading vlog to go live at some point. I recently read Queen of Shadows and really enjoyed it. The next book I have to read is Empire of Storms, and then there's only 2 more books after Empire of Storms, so I'm almost there. This series is YA, although it's become more adult as the series has gone on. The writing style is quite accessible, so it doesn't take me that long to read these books. So hopefully, if I continue with my current schedule of reading 1 per month, I will have this finished within the next few months. This next series, I wasn't sure whether I was going to put it on this list because I told myself I would read the first 2 books and then make a decision. It's quite a long series, so it's very intimidating. However, I read the first book in January, enjoyed it more than I was expecting, didn't love it, but I continued with the second book. I'm currently halfway through the second book and I'm really liking it. So I think I am going to commit to reading Malazan, Book of the Fallen by Stephen Erickson. The first book is Gardens of the Moon. I do have a spoiler-free review for this book if you would like to check it out. I'll leave it linked in the cards and in the description. I gave this first book 3 stars because I really struggled to get my head around everything that was happening. Stephen Erickson pretty much drops you into the world, gives you no context and just lets you work it out for yourself. And on the one hand, it feels like a really organic way to build a story because characters aren't over-explaining stuff that they already know. What I am finding though is that I'm not connecting to the characters as much as I would like to. That could change though as I get into the series. Like I said, I'm currently reading Dead House Gates, which is book 2. This is a really heavy edition, by the way, so I'm not going to hold it up too long. I'm halfway through this and I'm enjoying it so much more. I really love the world that Stephen Erickson has created with this series, and I am interested to see what I think of the second half of this book. Because I am liking this second book, I am going to continue with the third book, and I've heard that the third book wraps up a lot of character arcs, and so it's a natural place where you can take a pause if you would like to. Okie dokie, those are the series that I would like to continue in 2025. I'm now going to talk about 4 series that are completely new to me. 3 of these authors I have read from before, and then I have 1 book that's a bit of a wild card. But first up, I would really like to try The Final Strife by Sarah El-Arifi. This is part of the Ending Fire trilogy, which I own all of the books. I bought the 4th book a few years ago and had every intention of reading it pretty quickly, and then since then the sequels have come out, and because I've wanted matching hardbacks, I've just bought them all as they've come out, and they are all signed by the author, so I really should get around to this series and at least try the first book to see if I like it. I have read one of the book by this author. I read Feybound back in December and I didn't love it. I thought it was okay. I gave it like 3 stars. I don't think that romance is Sarah El-Arifi's strength, and where Feybound is romantasy, this is fantasy with, I think, some romance. I know that this is set in a world where people are divided by their blood, and 20 years ago several babies were switched at birth. So you had babies from the upper class who were raised with the lower class, and this was all done in the hopes that once the rebellion came to fruition, these now adults would be in a position where they could bring about the end of this class system. Like I said, I've heard good things and I did quite like Sarah El-Arifi's writing in Feybound. I just didn't like the focus on the romantic relationships, but I think this is going to be more political. Next up we have the Inheritance trilogy by N.K. Jemisin. N.K. Jemisin is fast becoming one of my favourite authors. I read The Great Cities duology last year. The year before that I read the Broken Earth trilogy and loved it. One of my favourite fantasy series of all time. I don't think I've given an N.K. Jemisin book below 4 stars, so I have high hopes for this one. I know it's her debut, so I'm going in with tempered expectations, but this I know is a political fantasy, and political fantasy is my favourite type of fantasy, plus it's N.K. Jemisin, so I'm hoping I will really like this one. I believe it follows a main character who, following the death of her mother, she is sent to live in the Sky Kingdom, and she enters a world of dangerous politics, and I think there's also gods who are possibly interfering. Don't know the details, all I know is that it's N.K. Jemisin and I'm hoping that I love it. Another author who I would like to read more from is Carissa Broadbent. I read the Crowns of Nyaxia series last year, or at least the books that are currently out in that series, and really enjoyed them, really loved the way that Carissa Broadbent wrote tension tension and chemistry between characters, and I've also heard really good things about her War of Lost Hearts series. The first book is Daughter of No Worlds, and I believe it's currently on KU. I don't know how long that's going to last because I have heard that this series is now being traditionally published. I don't know whether that's the case for the UK or whether it's just the US. So maybe the ebooks will stay on KU, but I would like to get round to this series soon, just in case they do disappear and I have to wait for them to be republished. I believe this follows a main character who is a former slave, and she gets in touch with this organisation who she believes can help her in freeing her friends that she left behind. But in order to join them, she needs to train to be able to use magic or something like that. She has to do a magical apprenticeship. I think this has like a mentor-mentee relationship, which is something that I do tend to like. If this is even half as good as Serpent and the Wings of Night, then I'm sure I'm going to love it. The final series on my list is The Burning Kingdoms by Tasha Suri. The first book is The Jasmine Throne. I do have another book by Tasha Suri on my Kindle, which is Empire of Sand. However, I believe that is YA, whereas this is adult, and I think I would like to try an adult book from Tasha Suri first, and then possibly go back and read her backlist. I believe this is set in a world that is inspired by the history and epics of India. It follows a princess who has been imprisoned by her brother, and she ends up teaming up with her maidservant in order to break free and, I guess, overthrow him. It's sapphic, it has a lot of politics, and I've heard that this has a lot of intricate world building and that there's a focus on magic and religion and so many buzzwords for me, so I have really high hopes that I'm going to love this. I have heard that it's slow, but that's okay with me because I do like slower fantasy. So that is the final series on this list. It is time to wrap up this video. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. Let me know in the comments if you have any opinions on any of these series, if you've read any of them. Let me know if there are any series that you're hoping to prioritise in 2025, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it and click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, but otherwise I will see you next time. Bye.